The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOFWAR5 to get a discount on your next order. For the greater good, it is time the Tau get a brand new detachment here. Not only were we treated with crop mist with auxiliary cadre, but now we have another new one, the experimental prototype cadre. So Jack and I are going to be diving into this detachment, talking about what we like about it, what we don't like about it, how we think it's going to fit into the meta. But very exciting here. I did not expect Tau to get a new detachment. So,
No, I don't think anyone expected their army to get a new detachment.
I love that Games Workshop is more than willing to go back to some codexes and offer play styles that previously didn't exist, or to shore up some weaknesses that might exist in the faction.
Yeah, Orcs didn't shoot hard enough. Tau didn't shoot hard enough.
You got to shoot, man.
It's a real problem.
People love shooting. I heard it.
Yeah, they do. They love it. They love getting shot. They love shooting. It's great.
So we're going to go ahead and dive into that here. If you are joining us, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. All of that massively helps us grow the YouTube channel. In addition, leave a comment below letting us know what you think of the experimental prototype cadre, whether you're excited for it, what units you're going to use in it. We'd love to hear from you. If you do super chat throughout the stream, we will answer those at the end, but we really do appreciate your support of the channel. And if you want more from us, including more Tau content, well, guess what? Later today is a game releasing at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It is Chaos Demon Shadow Legion, their new detachment, versus the experimental prototype cadre. And after that is going to release in the War Room an excellent post-game recap between Nick and myself, where we kind of talk about both our armies, what we like, what we didn't like, where we're going to head with the list. And then tomorrow there's going to be a list review video for Tau with some of my latest ideas and where I think this detachment might go. So tons of stuff coming out. Check out the War Room at thewarroom.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial, and you get access to our international Discord community.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive right in.
Let's go ahead and dive in here. So, experimental prototype cadre, their detachment rule is very simple. It is superior craftsmanship, and it gives +6 inch range to all of your ranged weapons. And that's Tau Empire models. That isn't, battle suit. That's not, your infantry. It's everything. Crute, Vespid, doesn't matter. All
breachers, the flamers on your battle suits, the fusions, the plasma rifles, the burst cannons. Burst cannons at 24. Very interesting. Plasma rifles at 24.
All those weapons that lost range from 9th edition to 10th edition, they can get them back right here in this detachment rule, which kind of harkens back to the Borkon detachment that used to exist for Tau. So that's really cool. And this is on every single turn. There's no, you get this for battle rounds 2 and 3. No. You get it the whole game. Always on, always awesome. And it's not just your shooting phase too. It also works on Overwatch, which is super nice.
Anything that is like 18 or less range is going to really love this.
Absolutely. And Tau has a lot of those type of weapons. So that's fantastic. Moving on to the enhancements. You want to take some of these away, Mr. Jack?
Absolutely. So first off, we're starting with the Supernova Launcher. You pick an airbursting frag projector equipped by the bear. So a terrible stat line in the airburst frag. But don't worry, it gets +3 strength, +1 AP, +1 damage. So is that taking up to strength 6, AP 1, damage 2?
Damage 2. And in addition, there are some nice stratagems here that could potentially buff it even further.
That's not a bad gun.
It's not a bad. Now, obviously, indirect fire, you can only hit on 4s. However, you could reroll 1s if Shadow Sun's nearby at the end of the day, and then you have blast. So it could be more than D6 shots as well.
I think this is probably just going to be either a mortar killer, right? Because it's good at killing mortars. Great at killing mortars, actually. Or it's just a direct fire gun that occasionally, fun fact, can go indirect when necessary.
Exactly. It'll probably be more often shot directly, and it'll help against various blast profiles. Even against a 5-man Marine unit, you get the additional shot. On average, you'll kill a couple models with just this weapon, let alone extra ones.
Yeah, I would be surprised if this was an enhancement you took, given you're only legally allowed to take 3 enhancements, and I think the other ones are probably better because they start on a better weapon. But
the airburst, they really, it used to be crazy in the previous edition, and Games Workshop were like, somebody wrote in their pre 10th edition stuff, they were like, okay, indirect fire is going to be worse, less indirect fire. And whoever wrote the Tau book was like 100%. Get these indirect fire weapons out of here. So yeah, it starts from a poor base point. But the thermoneutronic projector, how about this bad boy?
Yeah, so you take a Tau Flamer, you give it +2 strength, +1 AP, +1 damage. So is that also going to be strength 6, AP1, damage 2, auto hitting, and then maybe AP2 in a Star Scythe unit?
Yep, it could potentially be AP2. You could also increase its strength and AP again with a stratagem here in this detachment. So this is a pretty solid flamer. It is D6 shots, so it can be inconsistent. Some of the better flamers in the game are 3+ D6 shots. But this is, if you are running the Flamer Star Scythe, or even just a commander in that unit, and you want to throw a little bit of extra oomph in there, this is a good way to do it. It's +6-inch range from a Flamer going from 12 to 18 is a massive difference.
Yeah, and then the unit actually does Overwatch very well, because you have a bunch of Flamers at 18, and then you have the thermoneutronic projector as well. It's a good unit. It's not that expensive either. It's right.
Relatively cheap.
With an Enforcer, with an Enforcer, what is it like?
It's going to be 190.
190 total?
Yep, sub 200.
It's a good unit.
I guess with the enhancement, it would be 210. I think it's 20 points.
Okay, that's still pretty good. I don't hate that.
Moving
good
on.
Good into Eldar, too.
Yes,
and Orcs.
For sure.
Very good into Orcs.
T5, 2 wound bodies.
Yeah, you're going to need to kill
Honestly, the
orcs.
airburst is pretty good into Orcs, because
Yes.
you get the blast against it. But Plasma Accelerator Rifle. So this one is, you pick a plasma rifle, and you get an additional... So you improve the strength by 2, so it goes from strength 8 to strength 10. Nice breakpoint.
Yes.
+1 shot, so it goes from 1 shot to 2. And then +1 AP and damage. It's getting the whole kit and caboodle here. So it's going to go to AP4 and flat 4 damage.
Okay, that's a good gun. That's a good gun. That's a gun I would pay for. No notes. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you play into like Deathwatch or something, and they got those Terminator squads. All right, cool. Boom, boom. Just get them out of here.
It's the +1 attack that really sells it for me. Yes, damage 4 is sick. Yes, AP4, sick. +6-inch range, really love that on plasma rifles. +2 strength, that hits a lot of good breakpoints, but the extra shot is what sells it to me.
It's important.
Because this is not double the output of a gun. This is like triple the output of a gun, and it's a good gun. It's a good gun.
Speaking of good guns, we got Fusion Blade. This is my personal favorite of the enhancements here. This
I can
one,
see why.
You pick a Fusion Blaster, okay, something that loves +6-inch range, and you get +1 attack. So once again, goes to 2 attacks. You get +3 strength, so it goes from strength 9 to strength 12, and you could make it strength 13 in this detachment if you really needed to. And then it also gets Melt of 4.
Yeah, that's very
Mind
reliable.
you, this is very likely going in a Sunforge unit, which will reroll wounds and damage against monsters and vehicles.
Yes, so these 2 shots will be very efficient. They'll hit on 2s, probably re-rolling. Then they'll wound on 3s, re-rolling, and then they're going to be AP4, D6 +4 damage. Just that one guy can smoke a tank fairly reliably.
If you want to see Fusion Blades drop 19 damage on a Great Unclean One, tune in at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as it pops off.
Yeah, it's a bit sad there's a melee weapon profile alongside
There
the
should
Fusion
have been.
Blades.
Like,
There
come
really
on.
should have been.
It's so cool.
But damn, that dude packs a punch just in the shooting phase.
He's nasty. And of course, there's a stratagem for lethal sustain. So if you happen to roll a 6 on one of those 2 shots, oh boy.
I mean, this is legitimately the part where a unit can rock up to 2 vehicles, don't get guided, so you're not having to get the split fire penalty, and just wipe both.
Totally could happen.
Like pretty reasonably too, because it's 6 shots into, and you might even split it up, like figure out your optimal split. Like, ooh, I'm going to take the 3 regular shots off the commander. They hit on 3s, and I'm going to take 2 shots off the rest of the unit. They hit on 4s, and I'm going to throw that at one vehicle, and I'm going to throw 4 shots off the unit, and then the 2 fusion blades into this other vehicle, and really optimize it for reliability. But I think once you figure that out, I think you are going to just 2 tanks.
Yeah. Fusion Blades is fantastic. Strength 12, 18-inch range Melta. So now the Melta rule pops off on 9-inch range instead of 6. It's a big deal.
Melta 4 is just a huge breakpoint, especially since you reroll damage in that unit.
Fusion Blades is now just as strong as a Piranha Fusion Blaster.
But on a Tau commander.
Yeah. So awesome. Okay. 1 CP automated repair drones. This is going to be used in your command phase. You pick a Tau battlesuit unit, so it could be anything. Ghost Keel, which is usually something that gets wounded pretty often. Riptide, your crisis suits. You pick one of those battlesuits, and it gets D3 plus 1 wounds. Can't heal a battlesuit unit back, so it's not, healing crisis model back, but it could be used to make sure your Ghost Keel gets an extra few wounds on there, make it even more annoying to finish off, something like that.
Yeah, and it is in your command phase, so this is...
It's actually either. It's a command phase as a whole. Yeah, phase. So either player's turn.
But like, if your Ghost Keel's at 5 wounds, you can either spend a CP to auto-pass Battle Shock, or you can spend a CP to heal it, and then
which is done
you
before
will not
the Battle
have
Shock.
to take the Battle Shock, which I think is where it's going to pop up a lot. Ghost Keel on 4, okay, well, I'm at least going to hit half strength, so this is just free, basically, because otherwise I'd spend a CP to auto pass. No, we're going to spend a CP to not have to take the check at all, and then heal some.
Yep, it's solid. So it's not going to come up every game. You're not going to be spamming this, but it could come up in certain scenarios. Then we have the reactive impact dampeners. 1 CP, your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, importantly. After they have selected targets, you're going to pick one of your Tau Empire battlesuit units. So once again, it could be the Ghost Keel, Riptide, Crisis Suits, whatever it is. Till the end of the phase, each time an attack targets the unit, if strength is greater, it's a -1 to wound. Great stratagem.
Yes. Yeah, battlesuits are already fairly tough because they're just a lot of wounds for reasonably cheap. If you're -1 to wound, suddenly they can go from winning you on like 3s to winning you on 4s, and then you get saves with potentially Armor of Contempt, possibly cover, invulns possibly, and then after that they might go, damn, I just shot like a real unit, you lost a guy, especially since if it's damage 2, the 5 wound guys are really efficient there. If it's damage 3, the 4 wound guys very efficient. So like, there's not really a great way to attack them.
And a lot of Tau defensive mechanics and other detachments are locked to just the enemy shooting phase. I really like that they opened this one up to the fight phase.
Yeah, that's huge as well.
Experimental weaponry, 1 CP, you're going to use this in your shooting phase. You pick a Tau Empire unit, and you reroll the number of shots on a weapon, basically, in that unit.
If you take the Flamer unit, you're going to be using this strat a decent amount of time.
I took the Flamer unit in the game later today, so you're going to see me, I use it one time to just make sure I get max shots, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty good, because it's essentially the equivalent of like +1 shot to all of the guns, but while also compensating for the fact that you could just roll really bad on your shooting phase. So like you can just roll 10 dice, right? 25 shots. It can happen. And if you spend that's like almost never going to happen, right? You're almost always going to get like 40, 45 shots out of the unit, and that's huge.
And that's if there's a commander in there with the extra flamers. Then we have 1 CP experimental ammunition. So this is one of the 2 big damage boosts that you can get in this detachment. So this one is for your Tau Empire unit. You pick one of the following bullet points. So you can improve the strength characteristic of ranged weapons by 1. And there's a lot of interesting breakpoints here on the different Tau weapons. Strength 7 going to Strength 8, Strength 5 going to Strength 6. There's a lot of interesting ones. But you could take Hazardous. You could gain Hazardous on all your weapons to get +1 AP and the +1 Strength.
Hazardous is not free.
But we're used to it. We played Index Tau, baby. I was Hazardous all day, every day, cyclic everywhere.
Yeah, I know. And you failed them infrequently against me.
Hey, I'm not running 6-man Crisis, so there's less weapons to Hazardous.
True, there's only 10 rolls on it. I mean, Strength and AP is a hell of a buff, and if you give yourself Hazardous at the same time, it's not the end of the world, right? If you take those Flamers and you make them Strength 5, AP 1, if you take the Melta and you make them Strength 13, you probably don't even need to do the AP, as you were mentioning. Strength 13 on Fusion Blades. Both of those breakpoints are huge. The Strength and AP is just great. It's also really good on Breachers.
Yep. Because
you run up to people and they go Strength 7, AP 3?
Mm-hmm.
With full rerolls?
AP 2. It's AP 1 base.
Okay.
Yep.
You're
thinking of Og's Cadre where you can get, or Monka where you can get additional AP.
Yeah, but then you go from 6-1-1 to 7-2-1, and that unit will, okay, sure, you lose a guy or 2 to Hazardous. Nobody cares, right? Like, are you going to cry about losing 2 Breachers to Hazardous after you shove them in front of your opponent, move block, and steal their objective, shoot them to death?
Exactly. Same thing. You do have to be careful with your gun drones because they would gain Hazardous as well since they're weapons equipped by the models.
Are they 2 guns on each gun drone or are they 1?
I believe it's 1 set of guns. I would have to triple check that, but I believe you get the gun drone and it's that profile.
Yeah.
So threat assessment analyzer is 1 CP. Your shooting phase, you're going to pick one of your Tau Empire units. Once again, it's not locked to battle suits, so it's not as restrictive as some detachments could be. So you get to use this on whatever you want. And you get sustained hits 1 or lethal hits. And if you take Hazardous, you can get both. That's a great stratagem.
Yeah, I don't think you're probably going to take Hazardous quite as often here.
Probably not.
+1 strength, +1 AP is just great. If you could choose strength or AP, that's like a different topic, but you can't. You have to do both if you want to get if you want to get hazardous, or if you want to get AP, you have to go hazardous.
Yep.
This one, you can choose whichever one is best. And oftentimes one of sustained or lethal is best. Is there a way to get crit 5s? I don't think so, right?
Tau are one of the armies that doesn't really have that rule. It's very niche. In the Crude Hunting Pack, you can get it on the Flesh Shaper in a unit. It's not something that's very common.
Yeah.
And the one thing to point out here is between the 2 damage strats, Threat Assessment Analyzer and Experimental Ammunition, you cannot use both on the same unit. That's their restriction.
I don't think you really were going to do that anyway, because these
not.
read to me like stratagems that you split, right? You put one on this unit, now it shoots really hard. You put one on this unit, now it shoots really hard, and suddenly you're killing like multiple units.
And when you think about Tau as a whole, Tau is designed to go blow up big things. They want to put big damage into big targets. Okay, here, I'm going to guide. They're going to get the rerolls. This one crisis unit with all its weapons is going to go blow up this. I'm not going to mess with -1 ballistic skill. I just want to kill you dead. Do you need to spend also 2 stratagems on that? No, you don't really need to. So I also agree. I don't think that was really going to come up too often. It would have to be super niche, like late game. This is my last damage unit. I got to kill this thing.
Or your opponent pushes like Mortarion forward, and you're like, first activation's got to deal with him, I guess. That's really good also if you want to split fire your fusion, because you're not required to target the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can jump your fusion unit forward, not to guide it, give it sustained hits, which is essentially +1 to hit statistically wise. It's a little more swingy than that, but whatever. And then you just shoot and pick up 2 targets pretty reliably if they don't have like really good invulns or really high toughness.
Absolutely. And then the last one is the Neurosystem Jammer. This is a classic going back to like 8th edition. You would always have something that was Neuroweb Jammer, some rule. So this is 1 CP used in your opponent's shooting phase. It only works on a crisis unit, and it gives them 18-inch lone operative.
Not bad.
It's not bad.
So
So
range is a little short.
even with the +6-inch range, you're generally going to be pretty easy to for your opponent to shoot back into you at 18-inch range. 12-inch lone op would have been crazy. Would have been awesome.
It would have been insane.
But they removed that from the game for stratagem.
For good reason.
For good reason. So this is mostly, I think, going to be used on the missile unit. If you do take a missile unit, this stratagem will help keep it alive, because with +6-inch range, it can just kind of hang at a long firing lane and just sit there, be out in the open, threaten to do Overwatch, because with Fire Knife, you get the full rerolls if it's at
quite
starting
good there.
turn.
You get
And then,
sustained hits on full rerolls to hit.
not on Overwatch, but on on the stratagem.
But in the shooting phase from the strat.
Exactly. So I think that's the unit that would really combo the best with this. The others, because it's not really a unit you're stringing back and pulling out the first couple models, and then you're outside of 18. You're kind of just up there doing damage, and that's what it is.
I think you would use it kind of like how I use Draxus most of the time in the Custodians army, which is she just kind of sits and shoots at what comes into the center, and then your opponent's long-range guns can't hit that back.
Yep.
And so if your opponent wants to shove, get within 18 and shoot you, you go, fair play, you got me, and then you engage with your whole army.
I think it's also decent on a flamer unit that just sits in the center of your deployment area looking at a particular objective and saying, would you like to touch this? And you can try and shoot me, but I'll 18-inch lone up, so I'll have the ability to just kill something.
Yep, and if your opponent wants to put real serious guns in quantity within, like, onto the center objective or closer, you're totally fine with that, because then you just jump them with your army. You just run forward, get up close, start blasting, and you're like, oh no, it cost me a flamer unit. Like, that's totally fine. It might also not cost you a flamer unit. They are kind of tough.
Exactly. Or you might even have additional CP and say, all right, -1 to wound.
Yep. And then you do Overwatch anything that touches the center with 10d6 shots that might have the thermo projector in it. I think that unit's pretty good. Yeah. And you can use it passively rather than like actively, or you use the missile unit that can do basically the same thing. It's interesting.
So let's talk about the good stuff. So first of all, this detachment really boosts the damage of a variety of Tau units. So especially Flamers and Fusion, the normally 12-inch range guns, they benefit tremendously from going to 18-inch range. And I run 3 Sunforge in the game later today just to show that off in one Flamer unit. Those weapons benefit tremendously from that. In addition, there's no restrictions really here besides you can't stack the 2 damage stratagems, which is totally fine in my opinion. So you get all your stratagems the whole game, you get all your rules the whole game. Something Tau doesn't have too many detachments that do that type of thing. In addition, you get some nice damage boosts on your commanders so that the weapons in there do punch above their weight class, especially fusion blades is fantastic. So overall, this type of package is going to make for a very consistent, and I think the more casual Tau players and the ones that might struggle with like the sequencing and the pacing of a Monkar or Kalyan, this is the perfect detachment for newer Tau players, casual Tau players, anybody who's switching to get into Tau. This is a great detachment to start with because it just does the thing that you think Tau should do in the lore, which is shoot people hard.
Yeah, it shoots quite hard. Quite hard. Something that you seem like you were getting at is that Monka is much quicker, which helps. You can compensate for that a little bit by having Breacher Fish, which can move 12, 10.
You can advance and disembark.
You advance and disembark, so they can go relatively quickly, and then the plus 6-inch range really helps that out, but you're compensating rather than having it built in. I mean, personally, to me, this seems pretty solid. It shoots hard. It has good options to increase range on a lot of units that really want that. And then those units can shoot harder. And that's what it does. It shoots further and it shoots harder. And it has a little bit of durability, a little bit of utility in there. Not like a ton, but enough that you'll notice it.
Yeah, it has a very clear modus operandi, which is we do damage easier than normal and throughout the whole game. And that's a great place to be. I think this detachment is very accessible and is something that Tau was missing previously. Because even Retaliation Cadre, it was overly restrictive into the types of units it buffs, whereas this broadens it out. It's kind of like a battlesuit detachment, but then broadens it out to affect a lot more Tau units, which I feel really good about, personally.
There was kind of a design philosophy, it seemed like, for GW for a bit, where every detachment benefited like one very specific unit type. So
Canoptic Court.
Canoptic Court, for example, it tells you, here's the 4 data sheets that get buffs from this. Orcs is huge. Orcs have this in spades. They have a detachment that lets you take knobs and mega knobs. A detachment that buffs you if you take beast snaggers. There's like 4 beast snagger units. There's a detachment that buffs bikes and buggies. There's a detachment that I personally find that design very boring. The list tells you how to build it. If I want to do that, I'll just play Kill Team, right? Kill Team just is like, here's your models, play with them. And that's neat. This, on the other hand, is what I think should have been in like a lot of codexes, which is just, here's a package of rules. It applies to anything. You figure out what's best with it. Like, for example, rail broadsides. Don't really care about the plus 6-inch range at all. Okay, you shoot 78 inches now.
Hammerheads.
A plus. But maybe they benefit from other parts of the detachment. You need to figure out what really benefits from the range, what really benefits from the strats, what really helps. Like, for example, rail broadsides with, is it only crisis suits that, or is it battle suits that can loan up 18?
Only crisis suits. So the -1 to wound is battle suit. Only crisis suits.
I was thinking maybe take broadsides on a long
I would 100% take them if in this detachment, because otherwise I don't think they benefit a lot from here. There's no ability to advance and shoot for them, which is one of the most important things for broadsides. But if you could sit them there in the open and say 18-inch loan up, then I would definitely like it. I'd probably take a 3-man at that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You just take the biggest one you can. But yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of ways to play this. There's a lot of ways to try and figure it out. I think it's pretty solid. It packs a punch. It has a little bit of defense and a little bit of utility, and it seems pretty solid.
Yeah, so I think the one thing missing here is there's not that many tricks. The loan up is cute, but not always going to come up. So, there's no fire and fade. There's no go back into reserve. There's no, interlocking maneuvers from auxiliary cadre. So it doesn't have that or advance and shoot somewhere or, some fallback and shoot on anything. So it doesn't have any sort of trickery. You're just playing a raw, we're getting into a damage game, and we're going to try and kill our opponent that way, which I think will fit the philosophy of a lot of Tau players in general. But I don't think this is going to be the only way to play Tau. I don't think this is going to push Monkar or Kalyan out of the way, because those detachments do a lot of damage too, but also have some amount of trickery or utility.
Yeah.
So I think it'll compete with them rather than push them out.
The Custodes one is probably the best Custodes detachment, barring testing, right? I still need to test it.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I think the Orc one is far and away probably the best detachment in the game. It is far and away the best Orc detachment. This slots in alongside the other Tau detachments.
I don't think it just says, cool, this is the only way to play Tau now because it's so much better, which I don't think is a very healthy thing. So I'm glad that it's not that.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I'm excited to play this. Like I said, there's a game coming out very soon in the War Room it's going to release on YouTube, so you can watch it 1 p.m. Eastern time here. And then it is going to have a post-game recap in the War Room right after the fact. So you can get my thoughts on the detachment, immediately. You can see a game with it in action where I take a lot of the units that benefit from this. And then tomorrow is going to release a Tau list review where I take my insights from the game that I played, and then I'm going to talk about where I think this detachment might go. So there's a lot of stuff coming up related to the experimental prototype cadre if you're interested.
Absolutely. Let's cover some super chats.
Let's do it. We got Slack Onion, $5 super chat. With the power of the DACA detachment, should Tau be considered more of a melee army now in comparison?
Well, guess what? You definitely do melee less hard than orcs. Even shooting orcs.
Even shooting orcs. But Tau still shoot hard. Like, if you disrespect the army, it is going to pick up a lot of your units. So you definitely don't want to mess around with it.
If this army gets to tee off on an orc army, it'll kill the orc army.
Yeah, for sure.
They have to come correct.
Then we have I'm Too Random with a 10 Canadian super chat. Thank you so much. This update has been way more hype than previous ones. Feels like Rotmus again. Thanks for walking us through all the new material. Thank you so much for joining us, hanging out, having a great time today. And I'm definitely excited because this has now set a new precedent, which is that new detachments can just appear in an update for an army. So there's a lot of armies out there that either have like a limited number of good detachments, or there's like a style that's very classic for the army, which doesn't currently exist. And they can just fill that gap, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely what you want.
Then we have Omnipulus, a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Super sad for Admech, but getting Borcon plus Battlesuit is definitely making me want to crack open my 8th edition Star Pulse Cadre Retaliation Cadre box. This is the best time to be playing Battlesuits. There's a lot of good detachments for them. And this, in my opinion, Sunforge were overcosted outside of Retaliation Cadre. Now there's a second place to slot them in that they fit perfectly in, which is really good.
Yeah, that's very nice. Because, I only ever played Ret Cadre. And Ret Cadre loved their Sunforge, but I can definitely see how without the Ret Cadre
without
buffs,
Fire and Fade, without, the ability to go back in reserve, it's kind of limiting. But now with +6 inch range, that unit is completely different again.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is exciting. And then we have Curtis Broadley. Thanks so much for your £5 super chat. Broadsides with a 4 Phenopane against Hazardous goes nicely. One of the few instances it might come up.
I suppose. I think you would only ever do that on the missile ones,
unit, yeah.
And then all of their weapons get +1 strength, +1 AP. Not bad. You're still rolling a lot of dice for Hazardous on those models, right? Like,
hey, Jack, we want to use its data sheet rule, the 4 Phenopane that almost never comes up.
Because what, do you have 2 missile pods per guy, and then the big missile gun arms,
seeker missile,
then a seeker missile.
Yep, and you could get rid of the War Gear support system and add SMS or a plasma in there.
Yes,
if you wanted to.
Which
ignoring -1 to hit is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Drew Skywalker has been a member for 20 months at the bronze tier. Thank you so much, Drew. Thoughts on the experimental cadre versus retaliation cadre? Which one is better for what playstyles and list focuses? I think retaliation cadre is still going to fit the I want to keep my units safe for as long as possible, play the delaying game, pick away what you can, and then jump on somebody when they make a positioning mistake or start running low on resources. Whereas I think this army wants to put stuff like ghost kills and annoying to kill things out on the objective. Your opponent has to put good stuff out there, and then you're like, cool, max damage right here. Boom, you're dead. What
I like about this is that you can take like Breacher Fish, which is something that Ret Cadre rewards not at all.
Nope.
And that helps because Ret Cadre kind of has the problem. I played it at WCW. It kind of has the problem where it's very bad at taking objectives away and defending objectives against aggressive armies. It's just quite bad at that. It has to get behind your opponent in order to win against good players. Mm-hmm. And that's harder with a 6-inch deep strike.
Yep.
Whereas this can take units that are more expendable, can move up the board more safely. I like Breachers in this. Now, they are not free to take.
I think Pathfinders are great too.
Pathfinders are great. Like, I kind of like this one more, honestly. But you're the Tau guy.
It's tough because Fire and Fade and Starflare Ignition are 2 of our best rules in the entire corpus of Tau rules. It's hard to give that up. If I could mix and match them, we'd create a magical detachment.
CP Fire and Fade. Yeah, most armies would take that.
So,
yes.
I think because they're so different, there's reasons to take them. And like you said, there's different units that benefit a lot from either one that you won't really see as much in the other. So it's going to result in two different archetypes, even though they benefit battlesuit units.
Yeah.
And this one's a little broader than that. So overall, I'm really happy with this. And as I said, check it out. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so is going to be that Tau vs. Demons game debuting on our YouTube channel. And then after the fact is going to be that War Room post-game analysis of my thoughts, Nick's thoughts on Tau vs. Shadow Legion. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up. And if you are joining us, please do give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about us. That all massively helps us grow the channel. In addition, leave a comment below. How do you feel about the detachment? Do you agree with us? Disagree? What are you most excited to run in the prototype Cadre? And then finally, if you want to see more content related to this and additionally a list review that's coming out very soon, check out the War Room at thewarroom.vhx.tv and join our international community. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you all next time. So long for now.
Bye-bye.